Hi, it's Celeste, your canary in the coal mine. So I wanted to tell you another story about a family member and the effect of the environment upon that person. So in the 1980s, I think it was, I moved into a new house in California along with my husband. And I had been flipping houses, buying houses, fixing them up and selling them, and buying houses and fixing them up and selling them. And when we moved to California in 1985, there was a low availability of old houses, so I just basically started buying new houses and adding to them, putting in the landscaping and decorating the house and selling them. And we moved into a new house during the time period that my father-in-law, Randy's father, was dying of liver cancer. And so we were under a lot of stress, and we had to buy this house because if we didn't get into a new house in the right time frame, the IRS was going to take a big hunk of money from us. So we moved in, and like any new house, there was a lot of stuff to be added to the house. We wanted to put a bunch of cabinets and shelves in the garage, for instance. I had a lot of power tools, and we had bought a house with a 2.5-car garage so that we could have that extra bay to put the table saw and all the other pieces of equipment. And we started to build those cabinets and started to hang them, and all of a sudden my husband couldn't work anymore. And these kinds of projects were largely my projects, but there's lots of times where you need a second set of hands, otherwise you can't really do something. And so I was a little surprised that all of a sudden he couldn't work. He would just say, "Oh, I'm too tired, I don't feel well," and he'd go up to his study and sit in the recliner and probably either sleep or listen to music. And I was thinking it was the stress of his father being in the dying process. His father had started dying in about March, and here it was in the fall of the year, and his father was skinnier and skinnier, but still not dead. And his parents lived down in San Diego County, and we lived up in the San Francisco area. So periodically we would get these emergency phone calls from my mother-in-law saying, "You got to come right away, he's dying." And we would take the car ride down there, which was about a 10-hour car ride, and then we'd stay for a few days, find out he actually wasn't dying, and then we'd come back home. So I kind of was writing the whole thing off to the stress and strain of his father's death process. His father finally died the following March. But he was really debilitated, and he went to a doctor, and they did the usual blood work, and they said, "Oh man, your liver is way off. You've got hepatitis." And I thought it was psychological. I thought, okay, his father's dying of liver cancer, and he's like reflecting that, he's got a liver problem. And they couldn't find a cause for it. It wasn't like, they looked for the right infectious agents and stuff, because there's these different kinds of hepatitis. Couldn't find an agent that would have caused the hepatitis. Well, now that I'm a lot more smart about diet and environment and how our lifestyle and everything, I now realize that what had happened was we'd moved into this brand new house, and there was all of these toxic things that outgas from the new materials in houses that were affecting him. We had new carpets, that has a smell. We had new cabinets, and of which part of them is particle board, that has a smell. There was all these things about the whole environment that were just brand new and putting out their maximum. There was the glue that they glued down the vinyl floor with. There was the caulking that they used around the tub enclosure that was that silicone caulk. There was all these things putting out all this toxic chemicals into our environment. And I just wasn't as affected by it. Possibly I was, but it was below my level of perception, whereas he was just knocked cold by the whole experience. And I don't remember how long it was before he finally recovered, but it was at least a good 6 months, maybe even a year, before he recovered enough. He could go to work, because he had a sedentary job as a computer programmer, but that was all he could do. He could just go to work and then come home and veg out. So I just wanted to point out that there are a lot of things in our environment that can make us sick that we're not even aware of. I live in an older house right now, and so I have solid wood cabinets and I have hardwood floors, and so there's a lot of things that aren't happening with this house. But then there's the issue of mold. The house has been, the basement, the crawl space underneath the house has been flooded several times. And there's, so there's other things that are wrong with older houses. But I would say on the whole, an older house is likely to have not used the kinds of building materials that they use nowadays that emit so much toxicity. So that was another little life lesson learned about the effect of our environment on our health, and I just wanted to share that. So this is Celeste, your canary in the coal mine, and I want you to get well and be well. Thanks.